But I want to talk about the 49ers and what they've got going right now and how we need to be very, very appreciative of the now. And I've heard you and Mark go back and forth about Super Bowl or bust versus Super Bowl and try again. The reality is that rosters are constantly evolving.
Yep.
And when you pay the quarterback, it just becomes a little harder to field the team around him. Now, when you pay a guy like Patrick Mahomes, okay, we all would agree, Patrick Mahomes is going to make a guy like Juju Smith-Schuster, who last year entered on a one-year deal with the Kansas City Chiefs, look a lot better than what he did in Pittsburgh.
And you're going to attract free agents to come play with you.
Absolutely.
On minimum deals. It's kind of like the Warriors effect when you get the David Lee or David West of the world who are like, oh, I want to go there. Like Dario Saric, talked to him yesterday. This just feels like a great place to play. And I know I had made him wait a little bit, but this culture, this team,
absolutely.
How would you not want to play with Stephen Curry? Same thing with Patrick Mahomes.
Well, and like Juju's a great example. 1 year deal, I'll have a good year, and then I'll bounce and get a 3-year deal from the New England Patriots. But they kept Travis Kelce, but they couldn't afford Tyreek Hill. You have to balance out the books. But we all agree that Patrick Mahomes can win you a game if he's down a couple of guys on offense, or if you start to subtract from that offense because he's making so much. I'm watching Daniel Jones last night, and we'll get into Dak Prescott as well. I'm watching Daniel Jones last night, and there's a variety of things that come to my head. Number one, he's not worth that kind of money.
No.
Number two,
close. They have an opt-out after next season, though. Good for the New York Giants.
No doubt.
With the 4-year, $160 million extension.
But he's not worth the money.
No, he's not.
Number two,
not even close.
When you pay him that much money, it makes it a little more difficult to round out the roster financially around him, which makes it imperative that you hit on draft picks.
Yeah, no doubt. Real quick, isn't it laughable that they made Saquon Barkley waited out, and signed a 1-year tender, and they gave Daniel Jones money? We see who's more valuable on that team. We can make the argument that Christian McCaffrey's the most valuable offensive player for the 49ers. Well, Saquon Barkley is the most valuable offensive player for the New York Giants. It's not even close.
They should have franchise tagged Daniel Jones in the same way that Washington football team did with Kirk Cousins. That's what I would have done.
Yep.
Okay? That's no more financial obligation. You could do it 2 years in a row if he has a great year, and you could try to figure out some sort of a contract extension. The Niners are going to play Dak Prescott this week, okay? And Dak, to me, is the closest. It's not a like for like, but it's going to be one of the closest financial comparisons to what Brock Purdy and the 49ers are going to be going through over the next couple of years. In year one, 2016, Dak was making $450,000. $450,000. Now, Tony Romo was making 20-something million that year, obviously went down. Listen to the offense that they had around Tony Romo, making $22 million. Zeke, Cole Beasley, Dez Bryant, Terrence Williams, Jason Witten, Tyron Smith, Travis Frederick, Zach Martin. They had Sean Lee on defense. They had 4 All-Pros on offense, 1 on defense. That's his rookie year when he's making $450,000. As the team has evolved, okay, as they've gone, they've had to hit in the draft and move off of proven players. Amari Cooper, making a lot of money, proven player, had some good years for the Cowboys. They said, no, we're going to draft CD Lamb. And actually, it's been an upgrade.
No, and you know what? I'm not mad at that because we watch Amari Cooper in the Raider uniform, and Spadoni knows this. Amari Cooper would have games where he has 2 catches for 12 yards. He have a game where he'd explode, but he was far too inconsistent.
Yes.
And you know what? As a Cowboy, he was far too inconsistent. That was a shrewd move by the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I know where you're going here. Could you make the argument right now that even though Dak is making money that he's making, they still have an excellent roster around them?
Because they've drafted well.
Right. They get credit for that.
We could talk a lot about what Jerry Jones isn't, but what they have done well, but they've drafted really well.
The New York Giants have it. Troy Aikman mentioned on the Monday Night Football broadcast yesterday.
That's my point.
In the last 3 years, the Giants, more so than any team in football, has spent 5 picks on offensive linemen. That's most in the NFL. They haven't hit on anything with the offensive line.
And because you're paying Darren Waller, who's a good player, and because you're paying Daniel Jones that much, and Barkley, you're not going to be able to sign offensive linemen. Yeah. So you have to hit on those draft picks. And they haven't. Then I look at their wide receiver core. I mean, Bonte, their wide receivers scare no one.
No.
The New York Giants, right?
No, they don't. They don't.
They don't scare anyone.
They're not good at all. They're in for a long. You know what? They may now be in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. That's a bad football team. No outside weapons. And it feels like they haven't had outside weapons for like 3 years. Ever since they traded Odell Beckham Jr., name a Giants wide receiver.
Victor Cruz.
Kenny Galladay
Yes.
was a massive whiff for
Agreed.
them. And they spent a lot of money on him. He held them back. So bad free agent signings, bad draft picks, and now Brian Daboll's got to fix this thing, or they're going to be blowing him out of New York by next season.
No doubt. I mean, when I look at like Daniel Jones making $40 million, everyone's agreeing.
Yeah.
We're all nodding our
It's a
head.
joke.
He's not worth that money.
We knew that before the season when they signed him. He's just not.
So where I'm going with this is this.
By the way, can we get that caller back?
The one who wanted Daniel Jones over
He
Brock
said
Purdy?
Daniel Jones is better than Brock Purdy.
I mean, it's laughable. I'm not even going to argue. It's laughable. But I look at the rookie year for Dak Prescott. Okay, he started all 16 games. Yeah. He goes 13-3, 68% completion, 3,600 yards, 23 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. It's about as efficient and as good as you get. Making $450,000. It's one of the best bangs for buck in sports in the last 10 years.
Well, until Brock Purdy came along, because
exactly.
now Brock Purdy's making nearly $900,000 on this roster, and he looks like a top 7 quarterback. He just went 20-21 for 283. So he's making $900,000.
And it's different because everybody values positions different, whatever. Daniel Jones, Dak Prescott, both making about $40 million this year. If I subtracted $40 million from the 49ers offense, that's CMC, that's George Kittle, and that's part of Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah.
So what I'm getting at, Niner fans, at some point we're going to have to pay Brock, and we're all here for it because he's a very good player. And let's not get too ahead of ourselves because stuff happens. It's the league, right?
Yep.
Enjoy the now because this team is loaded, and they've got the best bang for buck in sports when it comes to Brock Purdy making under $1 million.
Well, you look at the Cowboys' offensive line, very good when they're healthy.
Yes, agreed.
And here's the thing about that.
And they drafted and developed.
I'm looking at Dak Prescott contract right now. There's an out clause after the season for the Dallas Cowboys, which is why they trade for Trey Lance and why they have Cooper Rush. They could kick the tires on Trey Lance. They kick the tires on Cooper Rush, and they can make moves to go get another quarterback. They are the Dallas Cowboys. They will replace Dak in a heartbeat. So for Dak Prescott, the pressure is immense. And I heard Spinoni on the way in played a cut where they asked him about Niners Cowboys, and Dak was saying, yeah, I think about it every single day. Well, he's going to think about it all week long, and he'll think about it come January, and he'll think about it in the offseason when he gets beat again in January. Listen. This is his last year with the Dallas Cowboys.
You think?
And I think he's unless he wins a Super Bowl, he is done in a Cowboys uniform.
Well, they got to pay CeeDee Lamb coming up here.
Yep, exactly.
And he's going to command a lot of money, right? He's back-to-back 1,000-yard receiver. So in 2022, the season of 2021, the Niners beat him 23-17. Let me give you Dak's numbers, okay? He was not good in that game.
Oh, I was
Sacked
there.
5 times, an interception, 55% completion, completely rattled. But you know why they were in that game?
Because of Jimmy Garoppolo.
Jimmy Garoppolo was 16 of 25, 172 yards, running for his life, and threw one of the worst picks of all time.
The second half, Jimmy Garoppolo was it was like they were trying to hang on for dear life. That was some bad football from the quarterback spot. I remember being at that game thinking, he threw an interception to get him right back into the game. The Niners should have won that game going away. It should not have come down to the final possession.
You know what I misremember? How good Elijah Mitchell was in that game.
Oh, he was running hard.
Elijah, 27 of 96 yards?
Well, no, Deebo Samuel was the guy in that game.
10 for 72 with 3 catches at 38 yards. But Elijah going for 96? I didn't remember that.
No, Elijah was good, but Deebo was really taking a storm.
Brandon Ayuk was good, too.
I also remember, he missed Brandon Ayuk on a wide open. Yeah, don't even get me started on that. But they won the game.
But Dak came up short.
No, he did come up short.
The very next year, they lose 19-12 at Levi Stadium. Okay, this is what I think.
You know what? Now I'm starting to remember that game for. Before we move on, Jimmy Garoppolo in the bad picks, but I also remember the alert that Draymond Green suffered a back injury.
Yes,
and I'm thinking the sky is falling after I was talking trash on Twitter, and I'm like, dear God, the Warriors and Draymond Green, the Niners are about to lose. Oh, my gosh, it's going to be a rough flight back. Continue.
No. The very next year, Dak throws 2 interceptions. Pollard breaks his ankle. Zeke has... They held the Cowboys in both games to under 80 yards rushing.
Honestly, both of those games, and I've told Guru this for a long time, every time you give a snap to Zeke Elliott, every time you give him the ball, it's a wasted rep. I truly believe that.
I think you're right.
Whenever you give Zeke the ball in the last 2 years, I thought he was done. I thought he was cooked. I thought he was washed. I thought he's 2 yards in a cloud of dust. Not even 3 yards in a cloud of dust. He was awful. And so I thought, hey, you want to give the ball to Zeke Elliott? Fine. Pollard was the better player the last 2 years.
I agree. In the game last year, Brock was better than Dak. Dak turned it over twice. Okay? When he leaves the Dallas Cowboys, and it's going to be because he was 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, sacked 6 times, and lost both games in the playoffs to the 49ers.
No doubt.
And I keep thinking about this, B. If he's making $20 million and they have one more playmaker, just hypothetically, that might be the difference in both games.
You know what, though? They paid Zeke. And you know what? That could have been a bad move. Paying that running back who was basically out of shape for the last 3 to 4 years.
Only had 3 good years.
I still think they've had a Super Bowl roster the last 3 years.
I agree with that.
They just ran into the 49ers. That's it. They ran into the 49ers.
You don't think one playmaker makes a difference?
They had playmakers. Amari and CeeDee Lamb is as good as a tandem as there is in the league. And then they had Michael Gallup. And then they had Michael Gallup in the slot.
Did.
You know what I'm saying? You're not going to carry 3 playmaking running backs, right?
But when you pay Zeke and you pay Dak, you got to get to Pollard production. You got to get one more guy. I mean, CMC is a superstar. He was held to 10 for 35 yards.
Nah, see, I think the Cowboys, even though they were paying Dak, it was enough.
Okay.
I think the Zeke Elliott contract, more so than the Dak Prescott contract, held them back. They should have moved up to Zeke and that money and got another playmaker. The quarterback, sure, Dak is overpaid. I'm with you there. Dak is overpaid.
Slightly,
no doubt about it.
Yes.
Slightly overpaid. But keeping Zeke around and that money alongside Tony Pollard, you could have used another game-breaking running back or another slot receiver. Now, Michael Gallup getting hurt them. CeeDee Lamb is a very good player. And they had the tight ends. Actually had good tight ends.
Schultz, who left in free agency because they couldn't afford him.
I know Dak's going to get all the headlines. But when I look at Zeke Elliott and what he was making the last 2 years, I'm thinking that was the guy you should have moved off of to get another playmaker if you needed it.
When they had his best season, essentially his most efficient season, he was making less than 1% of the cap. That's Dak Prescott. Currently, he's somewhere, depending on the guarantees, between 11 and 14% of the cap. Brock is making less than 1% of the cap right now. And I'm thinking to myself, they've got multiple years before they have to pay him. They're in such an advantageous situation. And unlike the Zeke contract, the CMC contract feels like a bargain because you get 2 players for the price of his $13 million.
Look what they're paying Zeke in 2022. $12.4 million.
Which is about what CMC's getting now.
Yeah, it's a joke.
About
9.6 the year before, $20 million the year before. Just not worth it. It's just not worth it.
No, it's not.
I mean, he made $73 million in 8 seasons with the Dallas Cowboys.
One of the top 7 highest paid Cowboys ever.
Yeah, it's not, and it wasn't worth it.
Dak Prescott got $95 million guaranteed. Niner fans, we talked a lot about the Nick Bosa contract. Nick Bosa was worth more than Dak Prescott guaranteed.
No doubt.
Wouldn't you agree?
No doubt.
It's not even a debate.
And it's Cowboys week. Sunday night football.
I'm so fired up.